Good morning, Methodists in the Valley. I am here with Brandi Fischer, and she is a staff counselor in the Counseling and Psychological Services at MSU. And last week we focused on veterans in our community. And so today we're turning our attention to another really important sector of our congregation and our community, which is college students. Welcome, Brandi. She has lived in the Bozeman area for 20 years, and she's been a part of staff at Montana State University for almost 15 years, and she's been a part of the Bozeman United Methodist community for around 10 years. And so I was just wondering, Brandi, if you could kind of start off by talking about some of the shifts that you're seeing with mental health in students as it relates to this tricky time of COVID-19.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be here. It is really, college students are a huge passion of mine, and I really love what I do. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about this population. In terms of the shifts that we've noticed that COVID bringing to our students' mental health, recent study from about April of this year found that the majority of students that were surveyed have reported that COVID has obviously negatively affected their mental health. Some of the factors that students identified were increased loneliness, boredom, even anger, anxiety, hopelessness, and sadness, as well as financial stress, but also just missed opportunities. And then impacts on their academics and just overall sense of motivation. And so this is in addition to a time in their lives when college students, this is often a time where mental health issues present in early 20s, and right? Even just the general adjustment to college can be really difficult. The transition, maybe they're moving away from home, living on their own. Just having to be more independent and make new friends, that's already a challenging time. Then adding on all the complications of COVID just really seems to heighten and just intensify a lot of those factors. And just that overall uncertainty and lack of control, college students, just like us, are also feeling that.
How could we tell if what our friends are experiencing is kind of like a symptom of like what we're all going through versus like warning signs that maybe there's something more going on and we might need to seek help or ask our friends, if they have thought about seeking some additional support?
So some of the more serious signs to be on the lookout for would be if you notice that person is no longer taking care of their self or engaging in those self-care habits or practices, right? So if this person is someone who typically likes to work out or exercises, right? And suddenly they've stopped doing that. Maybe you notice they are eating less or eating more or sleeping less or sleeping a lot more. Maybe they're not engaging in personal hygiene the way they typically would, not showering as much or not getting dressed or getting outside, those kinds of things. Missing school or missing work, and again, if that's out of the ordinary and you're seeing this change in their ability to just perform those day-to-day tasks. Another red flag to keep in mind would be if someone is obviously making statements about having thoughts of suicide or self-harm or thoughts of violence towards others, and to not be afraid to ask them about that. Another way, important to just reach out if you see someone exhibiting some of these red flags that we talked about, and just asking, how are you? I've noticed you haven't been coming to class, or I've noticed that you've been missing this. I want to check in and see how you're doing.
Well, we know that the semester is ending a little bit earlier this year than typical. So many of our students are finishing up finals and getting ready to head home, wherever that might be, for Thanksgiving. And so I just wonder if you have any insight or thoughts as they get ready to make that transition.
I mentioned the self-care piece earlier, which honestly, I think is always important, but especially important going into this break, making sure to get enough sleep, exercising in whatever form that takes for them. If it's walking, going to the gym, if they feel comfortable doing that, yoga, working out in their room, something like trying to create or stick to a routine, because it can be great at first to have nothing to do, but then after a while that can actually really lower motivation and leave them more susceptible to anxiety or depression. Also connecting and really trying to prioritize that as much as they can. So finding some ways, at least every day or weekly, where, okay, I know I'm going to connect with this person or this group of people. I also think taking some risks to be vulnerable and open up with people that they trust could be very helpful too, because this is a difficult time, and to just acknowledge that and kind of accept that things are probably going to be different this winter break and this holiday season, acknowledging some of the grief and sadness that comes with that, the loss of maybe typical traditions or ways of connecting or celebrating, and just creating the space to talk about that with family or friends, whoever they trust.